never know what's going on in a person's mind. But to raise awareness, what are some of the things that your group does in your area to raise awareness? And I know you work with the group SAD, and you work with a lot of other
Correct. Our coalition is based within the community of the Avoyelles. We have a tie-in with the school board system, which allows us to have a relationship with every school. You know, we're looking at over, 6,000 students?
Yes.
Alone. And we've created where they have SAD chapters. SAD used to stand for Students Against Drunk Driving. Now it stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions. So we address all vices, not only dealing with drugs and alcohol, but any device that may lead to some form of negative outspurt in the community. So we do things like that. And I know Mr. Johnson here probably can talk a lot about it, some of the events that we've had with some of our students within the school.
And along with that, we also have the district attorney's office help us with our truancy, which is truancy is a nationwide thing. The Red Ribbon Week, which is the celebration of the drug awareness for the whole state. And it's in honor of all law enforcement officers that risk their lives to prevent drugs and drug trafficking. I know our elementary schools, every year we donate 25 balloons to each elementary school, and they release them different days of the week. One year we did the helicopter with National Guard. The state police was involved. They did simulated rollover,
Seatbelt safety.
Seatbelt safety. So yeah, we are in our community being very involved with everything. And then we also have everybody in the parish coming together in this committee to try to do it.
Now, one of the key things that's tying into the subject of suicide awareness is one of the big topics this year and last year was bullying.
Really?
Because what we found out is there's a lot of bullying going on among the schools, and guess what that leads to? One of the outcomes from bullying, which was several cases in the school systems, is suicide, where kids cannot take that pressure. So it's all related.
Right.
It's all related.
It's all related.
And with social media at its apex right now, it's
Right.
not limited to the classroom or to the campus.
Correct.
It's also internet,
Yes.
the Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. All of these also their bullying taking place that a lot of parents do not see. That's something else that I try to encourage families. See what your child is doing. See what they're looking at, because they need that support. And sometimes your kids might get angry for looking at their Facebook, but you're their parent and you're
Right.
watching out for their benefit.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of numbers I've been throwing out because I like to read and study. A lot of these numbers are coming from a 2013 report called the Community Health Needs Assessment that was done by the Rapides Foundations. 3 key areas that teenagers has identified as problematic areas, and this is through the teenagers in Avoyelles Parish who did this research, was the greatest concern is drugs. Drugs is one of the greatest problems among the teenage population. Second concern ranked was pregnancy, and the third was alcohol abuse. And again, these vices all are related to areas such as depression or taking at-risk behavior. You know, so we see a correlation between these statistics and these concerns, and tying that in, how that relates with suicide. I'm sure there's a study out there being done that will show some relations.
I've also read that the number is very high among veterans, especially veterans returning home from war for various reasons, because a man can't provide for his family, all kinds of reasons.
Things they went through in the military.
Because things that they went through, because things that they've seen
Yes.
there and cannot live with, or can't get a grip
And then you
on
also-
life again.
You also have with the military, the transition back into
Right.
Civilian
our
life.
way of living in a civilian lifestyle is very different than what they've encountered. So there's so many populations that this affects, and for having the youth being taken care of and addressing that to the adults now, even that we see that are not being able to handle life because life is going faster, and the social media is what they
Right.
also are looking at. Is actually one of the recent studies I watched was how depressed people are who do Facebook versus those who never do and enter Facebook. And so I actually
That's interesting.
I did a study group recently with a group of professionals and asked half the group to stop looking at Facebook and get out completely versus the other half. And the half that are not at all involved are much happier and have more that they're involved with than the Facebook group.
Right.
That's very interesting. I know the state has programs in place for compulsive behavior.
We do, and we have so many areas around the state of Louisiana that addresses problem gambling, people who also have suicide attempts or actions involving that type of
Is there a
addiction.
hotline or something? Or?
There is. There's if you call, there's a 1-800 number, and if you call 1-877-770-STOP. And basically, I tell people that that's another problem that people just need to ask someone about, because you can't see gambling and you can't smell gambling and you can't pick it up on people. If people would just ask someone if they're having problems, because also that's a population that gets depressed and anxious, has a high rate of suicide completion as well.
Yes, and to validate what you're saying, I had a classmate or someone I went to high school with who I know is a suicide survivor who had a problem with addiction with gambling and turned to suicide as to end it. But now she is fully recovered and she's doing well. So again, this suicide is tied to so many different vices.
Right.
And the holidays too. I was reading about the holidays, and a lot of people get depressed for some reason during this happy time of year.
It's and that's part of sometimes what can depress people is, especially if they're not feeling very happy,
Right.
that can produce some depression. But there is, and we know, seasonal affective disorder, SAD, which people generally start feeling and sensing a change of the difference of the light during the day being less time of that. And so the vitamin D deficiency, and all of a sudden they start depressing during the fall months into the winter months, which is right up into the holidays. So that we also looked at that as far as when were callers on the northern part of the state calling in on our suicide line. And it was actually, as we were talking earlier, during the day.
Really?
Yeah, many times we would think in the dark of the night somebody would have those dark thoughts and be lonely, but it's actually during the day when maybe no one's there.
Have you ever heard one of those calls personally?
I have. I actually do backup with our team on our suicide line because I am a clinician, and so I work with our team to work with the caller to get them some help and get them some attention when they call.
Really?
So it's really rewarding. I mean, because no one should suffer and certainly die from something that's treatable, and there's help all over the state of Louisiana for this.